Billions in profits, zero accountability. That's the story of Big Pharma, the government, and the great mRNA experiment. And the man pulling the plug on the gravy train, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Their facts collapse, their stories bend, but this AI cuts straight to the end. Welcome to the Mark Boy Show.
Over the last 5 years, the American public has been through the ringer. Pandemic, lockdowns, mandates, and what we were told was a miracle vaccine that would end it all. And yet here we are. Billions spent, billions pocketed, trust shredded. There were many breaches of public trust during the COVID era. The cozy collusion between government and Big Pharma, the shifting goalposts of public health messaging, the censorship of dissent that made suspicion skyrocket. And now RFK Jr.'s big swing, yanking $500 million in federal funding for mRNA projects, saying enough is enough. We're going to walk through what happened, why trust broke, what RFK is doing about it, and why capitalism itself might be the safety net against bad science and political cronyism. Here's the core betrayal. Pharma got billions in subsidies, indemnity from lawsuits, and a guaranteed customer base, all while posting record profits. That's not free enterprise. That's a rigged casino. Moderna, a company that had never brought a product to market, walked away with nearly $1 billion in taxpayer money from BARDA just to develop its vaccine. Add billions more in purchase guarantees. Pfizer strutted around claiming it didn't take R&D money. But don't let them fool you. They locked in a $1.95 billion advance purchase contract for 100 million doses. That's a subsidy with a different label. The result? Pfizer made $36 billion off its COVID vaccine in 2021. Moderna raked in $17 billion. Moderna went from 0 products to Fortune 500 overnight, courtesy of Uncle Sam. And liability? Forget it. The PrEP Act gave them immunity. You couldn't sue them if something went wrong. Injured? Tough luck. Your recourse was a tiny government compensation program that denies most claims. Translation: taxpayers carried all the risk, corporations took all the reward. This isn't capitalism, it's corporate socialism. Privatize the gains, socialize the losses. A free market, more like a state-sponsored monopoly. Now let's talk about the whiplash. Remember, the promise is 95% effective, stops transmission, 2 shots to normal life. That's what we were told in 2021. Dr. Walensky said, vaccinated people don't carry the virus. President Biden declared, you're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations. Bold, definitive, and completely wrong. Fast forward 6 months, breakthroughs everywhere, Delta spreading like wildfire, and suddenly the story was, well, you might need a booster. Then Omicron hit, tearing through boosted populations, and the narrative collapsed. Actually, you'll need regular boosters, maybe yearly, maybe more. This wasn't science evolving. This was confidence game marketing. They sold certainty where there was none. They oversold short-term trial data as if it were gospel. And then came the insult, ignoring natural immunity. Studies showed that surviving COVID often provided stronger protection than vaccination alone. But instead of acknowledging that, public health policy treated recovered Americans like second-class citizens until they lined up for doses. Mandates didn't care if you had antibodies from infection. You were coerced anyway. That arrogance further demolished credibility. Even Dr. Deborah Birx admitted in 2022, I knew these vaccines were not going to protect against infection, and I think we overplayed the vaccines. No kidding. As if broken promises weren't bad enough, the government decided to muzzle anyone who pointed them out. The White House bragged about flagging posts for Facebook to remove. Emails revealed regular calls between CDC officials and social media execs about who to ban, what to censor. If you questioned transmission claims or shared Pfizer's own trial data, you could get slapped with a warning or banned. That's not fighting misinformation. That's government-directed censorship. And guess what? A federal judge later agreed, calling it a massive effort to suppress speech. And here's the kicker. Many of the things censored turned out to be true. Early talk of a lab leak, once misinformation, now a mainstream possibility. Pointing out that vaccines don't fully stop transmission, banned in 2021, common knowledge by 2022, Censorship didn't protect trust, it annihilated it. When you treat adults like children and bury uncomfortable facts, people assume you're hiding the truth, and in this case, they were right. Enter RFK Jr., now sitting in the HHS hot seat. He looked at the numbers, looked at the promises, and decided it was time to stop feeding the beast. He canceled $500 million in BARDA contracts for mRNA vaccine development. 22 projects gone. His reasoning was blunt. mRNA vaccines failed at their central promise of stopping infection and transmission. Their durability was lousy. Safety concerns like myocarditis were downplayed, and endless booster cycles eroded public trust. His quote said it all. These vaccines fail to protect effectively against upper respiratory infections like COVID and flu. We're shifting funding towards safer, broader vaccine platforms. In other words, no more government blank checks. If mRNA is truly revolutionary, let the private market prove it. If it works, investors and biotech firms will pour in money. If it doesn't, better to let it collapse than to keep draining public funds on a bubble. This is where RFK flips the script. His move isn't anti-science, it's pro-capitalism. Think about it. Insulin, antibiotics, statins, none needed perpetual subsidies to thrive. Once proven effective, they made money on their own. If mRNA is the miracle its backers say it is, Pfizer and Moderna should have no problem funding their own pipelines with the billions they already made. That's how capitalism vets technology. The market rewards what works. It starves what doesn't. Government interference only props up weak products and distorts priorities. Right now, we've got corporate welfare masquerading as public health policy. Kennedy's cut forces a stress test. Will mRNA survive in the real world without political life support? Now, defenders of the old order are howling. Let's dismantle their arguments one by one. First argument, the vaccines were a stunning success. They saved millions of lives. Yes, they reduced hospitalizations and deaths, especially in 2021. No one denies that. But stunning success? Please. The worst surges of COVID came after mass vaccination. Protection against infection collapsed within months. By Omicron, effectiveness against infection was in the gutter. That's not a lasting vaccine. That's a stopgap. Second argument, the vaccines are very safe, side effects are rare, COVID is worse. Rare side effects matter when you inject millions. Myocarditis in young men wasn't trivial. Some countries paused Moderna for under 30s. The US downplayed it, and comparing vaccine risk to COVID risk without nuance is dishonest. For a healthy 18-year-old, the vaccine myocarditis risk may actually outweigh their risk of severe COVID, especially post-infection. Ignoring that calculus was malpractice. Third argument, mRNA is revolutionary. It will cure cancer, fund it, or fall behind. Great, then let Pfizer and Moderna invest. They've got more cash than God after their COVID haul. If mRNA cancer vaccines work, they'll be profitable, and capital will flood in. We don't need taxpayers bankrolling Merck's oncology department. Fourth argument, cutting funding cedes leadership to other countries. That's patriotic fear-mongering. U.S. biotech leads the world because of talent, capital, and a strong market, not because of government handouts. Innovation doesn't vanish when subsidies stop. It thrives when competition is real. Fifth argument, RFK is just an anti-vax crank. Ad hominem at its finest. Dismiss the man, ignore the message. But the message resonates because it reflects what Americans saw with their own eyes. Collusion, overpromises, censorship. You don't have to agree with all of RFK's past positions to see that his policy here makes sense. At the heart of this debate isn't just science or capitalism, it's trust. Public health only works when the public trusts it. That trust was shattered. Pharma got rich, government overpromised, tech censored dissent. People aren't anti-science, they're anti-being lied to. Kennedy's move signals a reset. No more subsidies until the technology proves itself. No more one-size-fits-all narrative. Redirect funds to a broader range of approaches. Let the market decide what works. If mRNA is truly the future, it will survive just fine. If not, better to cut losses now. Either way, the message is clear. The government's job is to protect public health, not bankroll corporate experiments. So here's the takeaway. The breaches of trust during COVID were real. The collusion, the shifting narratives, the censorship, they weren't conspiracy theories, they were facts. And now, with RFK Jr. pulling federal funding for mRNA projects, we're watching a real-time test of capitalism versus cronyism. If mRNA works, private investors will prove it. If it doesn't, taxpayers won't be left holding the bag. And maybe, just maybe, this move will help rebuild the one thing more important than any vaccine: trust. Because without trust, no mandate, no subsidy, no miracle tech will save us. With trust, people will follow the science voluntarily. The choice is simple: transparency, accountability, capitalism, or more of the same deception that got us here. And I don't know about you, but I'm done paying for Big Pharma's spin.
Thank you for your attention to this matter.